Welcome, my favorite federal employee. We're glad that you found our channel. My name is Andrew McNair, son of a CSRS employee and founder of SWAN Capital, Sleep Well at Night Capital, a total wealth management company where we have a CPA, estate planning attorney, and financial planners all under one roof serving federal employees just like you every day. And so when you retire, you face a handful of decisions that are both emotional and financial. Survivor benefits is one of the biggest. If you pass away, do you want a piece of your pension to continue to your spouse or not? And today we're going to walk through the real mistakes that we see federal employees make every day and how FEHB ties into this equation and the limited windows to change your election after retirement so you don't back yourself into a corner. So get your pen handy and we're going to go right into the details.
Yeah, I'm excited you're talking about this, Andrew. This is going to be very beneficial. What exactly is a FERS survivor benefit? Just give it to us in plain English.
So it's your election on your retirement allocation to pass part of your pension to your spouse after you die. Now, again, it would be nice if you passed away and the government just said, yeah, your spouse, you've been married, they deserve 100% of your benefit. It doesn't work that way. Without a survivor benefit, your pension ends when you do. This is not automatic. It's a lifetime only benefit unless you elect otherwise, which is why there's survivor benefit options.
All right, let's go through them then. What are the three survivor options? Also, what do they cost?
Yeah, I mean, I wish you could give 100% of your pension to your surviving spouse. Some state pensions do work that way. Some private pensions work that way. Some funded pension plans work that way, but the federal government does not. You only have three options. The most you could ever give your spouse is a full survivor benefit of 50%. And that cost, while both alive, is 10% of your pension. Now, if you pass away, that spouse is going to receive 50% of your gross pension. And key word is gross. Remember, they're going to be a single tax filer. So that means they're going to be paying more taxes because they're probably a single filer and their tax brackets are going to get cut in half. So for example, if you have a $1,000 pension and you receive $900 while you're alive, your spouse is going to get $500 when you pass away. Next is the partial survivor option. This is a 25% benefit, and it's going to cost, while both of you are alive, 5% of your pension. And if you pass away, your spouse is only going to receive 25% of your pension. So if you thought your pension was not enough after 20, 30 years of service, imagine it only being 25% for your spouse. So for example, a $1,000 pension, you receive $950, but your spouse gets $250 if you pass away for the rest of their life on a monthly basis. And the third option. The third option is there's no survivor benefit. You're not leaving anything for your spouse. Once you pass away, that pension check will dry up. Now, unless they have a private funeral and don't tell anyone about it, which is illegal, but if they get away with it, maybe that way your spouse would be covered. But that, I'm joking aside, that cost is zero for no survivor benefit. But pensions checks do stop at death, and the spouse typically is going to lose their FEHB coverage that they had through you.
So why is skipping survivor benefits the worst mistake for some families, Andrew?
Well, I mean, we're talking really serious things like income security for your spouse and your loved one. If your spouse relies on your pension for the basics to survive, turning it off at death creates a financial crisis where they're having to go back to work, especially in their 70s, 80s, 90s. That might not be financially doable. Now they're being a burden on your kids, their nieces and nephews because of a decision that you made, but sadly, you're not living with the consequences of the decision. The spouse is, and that's why the spouse has to sign off on it. Next is health insurance, your FEHB. If your spouse keeps FEHB through you, they generally need at least a partial survivor benefit, that 25% benefit, to stay covered after your death, unless they have their own federal service because they're a dual federal employee. So the quote unquote save 5 to 10% today mindset can really backfire, cutting off both income and healthcare later. And this is why we tell every client that they should get a full medical workup and go through the stress tests, the sleep studies, and make sure you do all of the extra tests. Ask for more tests. Because if you got a diagnosis, wouldn't that probably change your outlook towards survivor benefits?
Yeah. And then tell us, when is electing survivor benefits just unnecessary and expensive?
Well, I mean, I want to have a very unbiased point of view towards survivor benefit. And I oftentimes am very anti-survivor benefit because survivor benefit is insurance. It's basically term insurance. If you need it and you die immediately upon, actually selecting it and you die immediately, that's the best way to get the most out of your survivor benefit. It's not good for you. It's good for the most efficiency of your money, but it's not worth it if you pay into something for 20, 30 years and your spouse passes away before you. And that happened to my grandfather. He paid for survivor benefit for his 40-year retirement of his Navy service. And he paid for survivor benefits for my grandmother, and she passed away first. So you need to consider not buying it if your spouse has the following: their own substantial pension or guaranteed income that will cover their standard of living and the standard of living that they want in retirement. That plus they have their own independent health coverage that's not tied to your FEHB. Maybe they have it through the state. Maybe they have a Medicare with a supplement. Also, maybe you're self-insured. Maybe you have significant assets to replace your pension. Maybe you have $3, $4, $5 million that has something that you've accrued or inherited. Maybe you don't need survivor benefit in that scenario. I would also say reclaiming that 5 to 10% reduction can help you fund more travel, family goals, or tax strategies if spouse security is already covered. And then I would say the last option is if you already have permanent life insurance in place. Now, notice what I didn't say. I didn't say if you had term insurance in place. 98% of term often does not pay out. That means that if you buy 20-year term and you don't elect survivor benefit, you could leave your spouse high and dry in the time that they need it the most, after you pass away, after that term insurance expires, and then you finally do pass away. But if you have a permanent life insurance policy, like a permanent policy like whole life IUL or something like that, maybe you don't need to select survivor benefit.
So how does FEHB really tie into the survivor election then?
Well, for spouses covered through your FEHB, electing no survivor benefit usually means no FEHB for them after your death. And so electing at least that partial 25% survivor benefit typically preserve your spouse's FEHB eligibility when you're gone. And so if your spouse has their own FEHB through their own federal service, this concern may be reduced and may not be an issue at all. So I think there is a lot of thought that needs to go into this, because when you make this one decision, it's intertwined with a very serious decision of your health insurance, leaving them really wondering, do I go to Medicare with a supplement, Medicare Advantage with a potential penalty because of what I chose with my survivor benefit option?
Yeah. Now, can I change my survivor benefit after I retire? And what are the deadlines?
Certainly. So within 30 days of your first regular monthly annuity payment, you can file a new election in writing. After 30 days, but within 18 months of your annuity start, you may add a survivor annuity if you chose none, or increase a reduced one. Now, here's the thing is, after 18 months, your original election is generally irrevocable, and so you need to plan on that being a permanent decision.
Okay, so then what about spousal consent and then special cases like divorce cases, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, you have to understand that if you had a prior marriage, that needs to be factored in, and you need to pull out your divorce decree and look at it very closely. If you don't elect the full survivor benefit, your current spouse must consent to it in writing, because why? It affects them, not you, because you'll be deceased. Now, a court order and a divorce decree may require a specific survivor election, and those obligations can trump what you, quote unquote, prefer.
Okay, so how do Social Security and survivor benefits coordinate then?
Yes, please, whatever you do, don't think in silos. Survivor benefit, FEHB, Social Security, insurance, even long-term care all play into the decision about what you're going to do about survivor benefit. So higher earning timing does matter. Let's talk about why timing matters. If you're the higher earner and you delay Social Security, your larger Social Security benefit often becomes the survivor's benefit later. Survivor benefit protection on your pension plus survivor rules with Social Security can work together to stabilize that survivor's income stream. And so it's really important to consider, are you going to take Social Security at 62, 67, or 70? And maybe you don't take survivor benefit, but you delayed Social Security till age 70, and maybe that offset between you and your spouse you feel like is enough to cover y'all's needs.
Andrew, what else belongs in the bigger picture besides survivor benefits?
Yeah, I would say number one is estate planning. This is why we have an estate planning attorney in our office. Wills, powers of attorney, and trusts, as well as last will and testaments, all of that play into how your spouse avoids a legal mess with other beneficiaries during a hard time emotionally. So I would encourage you to make sure your legal documents are correct, that they match your wishes. That can be compounding. The stress of losing part of your pension upon your passing is dealing with estate planning issues. Number two is beneficiary designations. If you have your TSP and your IRA and your life insurance current, that's going to override your will. Those designations are very important to make sure you have primary, your spouse, and contingent, the kids, and not the other way around. I had a family member that accidentally put the kids as primary, and that really impacted their spouse. Tax planning. Analyze the survivor's future tax brackets. Consider that the widower's penalty, that they're going to pay more taxes potentially. They have RMDs on your TSP. What about the IRMA exposure that they have, because their tax brackets and IRMA brackets will be smaller? So all of this needs to be factored in. One more thing, Luann, I don't want to forget is long-term care.
Okay.
So remember that what happens if you don't elect a survivor benefit, or if you do elect a survivor benefit, what happens if you don't die, but you have the need for assisted living, nursing home, home health care? Again, that is a big deal. Some people, they don't die, but they actually add a bill to the situation for their spouse. That bill is that caregiving cost of $12,000 to $14,000 a month. So sometimes we'll decide actually not to take survivor benefit, or we'll take a 25% benefit. We'll purchase a long-term care hybrid that fills in the gap if something happens to you, but it provides a long-term care benefit in case you don't die, but you get sick or have dementia. So this is how the good financial planning intertwines this decision about survivor benefit.
Yeah, that's a lot there. How do I actually run the numbers on all of this?
Well, when we run a personalized federal benefit report for every family, we actually model your pension at 0, 25%, and 50% survivor elections so that you can track the lifetime cost, the running total, if you live to age 70, age 80, age 90, so you can see the lifetime cost of this reduction versus the lifetime value of the protection. Then we layer in the FEHB impact, Social Security timing, and we take all of this together, and then we stress test it, saying, what if you pass away? What does it look like for that spouse? What if she passes away? What does that look like for you?
Love it. Okay, so let's say if I'm within 18 months, what are the telltale signs that I need to change my election?
Well, let's say you initially chose none, but you realize your spouse depends on your pension and FEHB. It's time to do a reversal. You picked partial, but a new diagnosis, a job loss, or a market setback means you need to upgrade to full coverage, that 50% spousal benefit. Your spouse's own coverage, health or income, changes and no longer offsets that risk. Then that would be a good reason.
Okay, and then when should I consider life insurance instead of, or maybe alongside survivor benefits? When does that fit in?
Well, if your health is really good, remember that the government is taking into consideration the group, not your personal situation. If you're extremely healthy, you're retiring early because you're an LEO, you're an air traffic controller. If your spouse doesn't need FEHB through you and just needs the lump sum capital, life insurance can be a very good targeted solution. Sometimes the answer is a combo, partial survivor benefit with the right sized life insurance policy for additional flexibility.
Okay, and then what are the most common costly mistakes you would recommend we avoid?
I would say skipping survivor benefits when the spouse needs income plus FEHB. That's going to cause a lot of headache on the health insurance side. I would say buying coverage you don't need for decades and treating survivor benefit like just a checkbox instead of coordinating it with your estate planning, your income planning, and your long-term care planning.
Okay, so we've been going over this FERS survivor benefit. Give us a quick checklist. Okay.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so does your spouse need guaranteed income for your pension if you go first? That's the first question. And this is something you and your spouse need to have a great dialogue about, and you can use this checklist. Number 2, will your spouse need FEHB through you after death? Number 3, have you modeled full versus partial versus none, including taxes and healthcare, and looked at the net amount versus your standard of living? Are your beneficiaries updated? Your TSP, your IRA, and your life insurance? Next, do you understand the 30-day and 8-month change windows? Has your spouse consented if not electing full, and have you both agreed on the trade-offs? So I know we packed in a lot, but I wanted to be very comprehensive here. I hope this video was super helpful for you and your spouse to navigate this major decision. Now, if you want to see your personalized SBP options, your survivor benefit options, please take us up on getting that personalized federal benefit report by clicking the link below, and one of my financial planners or I will sit down for 1 hour to model this for you and your family. So I hope you have a blessed day, and we'll see you soon.